September 17th, 1944. Outside the French town of Arracourt, Obersturmführer Michael Wittmann's hand trembled slightly as he wrote in his Tiger commander's log, words that contradicted 3 years of armoured warfare doctrine. An American 76mm gun penetrated Hauptsturmführer Keller's Tiger frontal glacis today. Range estimated 700 to 800 meters. Complete armor failure. The driver and radio operator were killed instantly. Hull ammunition detonated. We were taught this was impossible. The Americans do not possess weapons capable of defeating Tiger frontal armor at such distance. Today proved otherwise. Through his commander's cupola just minutes earlier, Wittmann had witnessed something that violated every principle German tank doctrine had taught. An American Sherman, not even the heavier 76mm gun variant he'd heard rumors about, but one that appeared to mount the longer barrel, had fired a single shot that punched completely through a Tiger's frontal plate. Not the side armor, where Tigers remained vulnerable. Not the rear deck, where a lucky shot might disable the engine. The front glacis plate, 100mm of hardened steel, sloped at precise angles calculated to deflect even the heaviest anti-tank projectiles. The plate that made Tigers invincible in frontal engagements. Keller's crew never had a chance to return fire. The penetration created a jet of molten steel and copper that swept through the fighting compartment like a blowtorch. The 70-kilogram projectile, travelling at nearly 3,000 feet per second, carried enough kinetic energy to defeat armor that Allied intelligence had claimed was impenetrable from the front at any practical combat range. German tankers had built their tactical doctrine around one fundamental assumption. If you faced the enemy, you were safe. Tigers engaged from hull-down positions, presenting only frontal armor to opponents. They dominated open terrain, where their 88mm guns could kill enemy tanks at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters. Allied Shermans had to close to within 500 meters to have any chance of penetrating Tiger side armor. No Allied gun could threaten Tigers frontally beyond point-blank range. That assumption died in the fields outside Arracourt during autumn 1944. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. The weapon Wittmann described had emerged from American industrial innovation responding to battlefield realities in Normandy. The standard 75mm Sherman gun, firing armor-piercing ammunition, could barely scratch Tiger frontal armor even at close range. American tank crews had suffered devastating casualties throughout the summer of 1944, learning that engaging Tigers frontally meant certain death. The War Department's Ordnance Branch received urgent field reports demanding better ammunition, better guns, anything that could level the playing field against German heavy armor. The solution came from metallurgical research that had been underway since 1942. High-velocity armor-piercing ammunition, designated HVAP, used tungsten carbide cores instead of hardened steel. Tungsten's extraordinary density, nearly twice that of steel, created projectiles that maintained velocity better and concentrated impact energy into smaller areas. The 76mm HVAP round, officially designated M93, weighed only 10 pounds but delivered penetration performance exceeding conventional 90mm armor-piercing shot. German intelligence had completely missed HVAP development. Captured American ammunition in Italy and France through summer 1944 revealed only standard armor-piercing projectiles. German testing had established that 76mm guns, firing conventional ammunition, could penetrate approximately 90mm of vertical armor at 500 meters. Tiger frontal armor, 100mm thick and sloped, offered immunity at all but the closest ranges. German tank commanders developed tactics around this mathematical certainty. They positioned Tigers hull down, engaged at maximum range, and trusted their frontal armor to absorb anything Allied guns could deliver. The first HVAP rounds arrived at American armored divisions in France during August 1944. Initial quantities were extremely limited because tungsten remained a strategic material, prioritized for machine tools and armor-piercing ammunition across all services. Tank companies received perhaps 20 HVAP rounds per vehicle, enough for critical engagements but not for routine combat. Gunners were instructed to use HVAP only against heavy German armor, Panthers and Tigers, where conventional ammunition proved ineffective. American tank crews received minimal training on the new ammunition. Field bulletins described HVAP's improved penetration performance, but provided little specific data. Crews understood they now had a weapon that might defeat German heavy armor frontally, but no one knew for certain whether it would work under combat conditions. The projectiles were expensive, scarce, and unproven. Commanders emphasized that HVAP was not a miracle solution, merely a better tool that still required proper tactics, favorable positioning, and accurate gunnery. The first documented Tiger kill using 76mm HVAP occurred on September 12, 1944, during the initial stages of the Lorraine campaign. Third, Armored Division's Task Force Lovelady encountered elements of the 5th Panzer Army's Heavy Tank Battalion 503 defending approaches to Nancy. Staff Sergeant Lafayette Poole, commanding a Sherman mounting the new 76mm gun, spotted a Tiger positioned, hull down approximately 800 meters distant. Poole's after-action report, filed the following day, described the engagement with characteristic understatement. Observed enemy heavy tank, Tiger Mark I, at estimated range 800 yards, loaded HVAP, aimed at the center mass of the visible frontal plate, fired single round, observed immediate penetration with secondary explosion. Enemy vehicle burned completely. Crew did not escape. This was the first recorded instance of an American Sherman defeating a Tiger in frontal engagement at long range. Poole's kill sent shockwaves through both American and German commands. American intelligence officers initially questioned the report, suspecting Poole had misidentified the target or misjudged the range. Tigers simply did not die from frontal shots at 800 meters, but photographic evidence confirmed the wreck as a Tiger, and the angle of engagement proved the hit had struck frontal armor. Something had fundamentally changed in the balance of armored combat. German commanders reacted with alarm and confusion. Oberst Erich von Gersdorf, Chief of Staff for 7th Army, received reports of multiple Tiger losses to American fire during mid-September. His intelligence summary noted tersely, American tank destroyers and 76mm guns now demonstrate capability to defeat Tiger frontal armor at ranges previously considered safe. All heavy tank units must revise engagement doctrine immediately. No longer can we assume frontal immunity. The technical explanation emerged gradually, as German forces recovered spent American projectiles from destroyed Tigers. What they found contradicted everything they knew about Allied ammunition technology. The projectile cores were not hardened steel, but some exotic material that remained intact after penetration. Chemical analysis at German proving grounds identified tungsten carbide, a material Germany itself used in armor-piercing ammunition but assumed the Allies could not obtain in significant quantities. Oberingenieur Hans Schmidt, attached to Waffenamt testing facilities, filed a report in October 1944 that captured German technical assessment. American HVAP ammunition represents a significant threat to all German armored vehicles. The tungsten carbide core maintains structural integrity during penetration, creating a small diameter hole with catastrophic internal effects. Testing indicates M93 76mm HVAP can defeat 100 mm of vertical armor at 1,000 meters. When striking sloped plates, performance reduces but remains sufficient to penetrate Tiger frontal glacis at 600 to 800 meters under optimal impact angles. Schmidt's report included calculations that revealed the uncomfortable truth. Tiger's frontal armor, sloped at 25 degrees from vertical, offered effective thickness of approximately 110 millimeters. HVAP rounds striking at perpendicular angles could defeat this protection at ranges exceeding 700 meters. Even shots striking at oblique angles retained enough energy to penetrate at closer ranges. The mathematical certainty of Tiger frontal invulnerability had evaporated. The psychological impact on German tank crews emerged through intercepted radio communications and prisoner interrogations. Lieutenant Dieter Kraus, Tiger commander with Heavy Tank Battalion 503, was captured after his vehicle threw a track near Metz in October 1944. His interrogation revealed transformed tactical thinking. "We no longer engage American Shermans confidently," Kraus told British intelligence officers. "Before, we knew our frontal armour was immune. We positioned hull down, took aimed shots, destroyed enemy tanks with impunity. Now, any Sherman with the longer 76mm gun might carry ammunition that defeats our armour. We cannot tell by observation which rounds they load. We must assume every shot threatens penetration." This uncertainty paralysed German tactical decision-making. Tiger doctrine had always emphasised aggressive positioning, using superior armour and firepower to dominate engagement ranges. Now, Tigers had to consider terrain differently. Hull-down positions that once provided complete protection now offered only partial cover. Range, previously a German advantage, no longer guaranteed safety. American Shermans still couldn't match Tiger killing power or armour thickness, but they'd gained the ability to hurt Tigers under specific conditions. That possibility, however remote, forced German crews to abandon confidently aggressive tactics. The mathematics of ammunition distribution created additional American advantages. Each American armoured division fielded hundreds of Shermans. Only a fraction mounted 76mm guns, and those carried limited HVAP supplies. But German commanders couldn't determine which Shermans carried HVAP or how. Many rounds remained. Every 76mm Sherman became a potential Tiger killer, forcing German heavy tank units to treat all American armour as significant threats. The Battle of Arracourt, fought between September 18th and 29th, 1944, demonstrated HVAP's tactical impact. The 5th Panzer Army launched a major counter-offensive against Third Army's bridgeheads across the Moselle River. German forces committed over 200 tanks, including elements of 3 Panzer brigades equipped with Panthers and Tigers. American 4th Armoured Division, with fewer than 200 Shermans, defended against this assault across rolling terrain that favoured German armour doctrine. Under normal circumstances, German numerical and qualitative advantages should have overwhelmed American defences. Panthers and Tigers outranged Shermans significantly. German doctrine emphasised manoeuvre and firepower concentration. Weather conditions prevented American tactical air support for much of the battle. Every factor favoured German success except one. American tank units had received HVAP ammunition specifically for this defensive operation. Combat action reports from 4th Armoured Division documented the transformation HVAP created. Company C of the 35th Tank Battalion engaged German armour on September 20th near the town of Arracourt. Captain James Leach's after-action report described the engagement. At 0900 hours, observed enemy tank column advancing across open terrain at range 1,000 to 1,200 yards. Identified 3 Tigers leading formation. All tanks loaded HVAP per standing orders for engagement with heavy enemy armour. At range 800 yards, commenced firing. First round from Lieutenant Morrison's tank struck the lead Tiger frontal glacis. Penetration observed with immediate catastrophic secondary explosion. Tiger turret separated from hull. Second Tiger turned to withdraw. Multiple rounds. Struck frontal and side armour. Vehicle immobilised and burned. Third Tiger achieved a hull-down position and returned fire, engaged at range 700 yards. 3 HVAP rounds struck the frontal plate. Third round penetrated. Crew abandoned vehicle. Leach's report detailed something unprecedented in American armoured experience. Shermans had defeated Tigers in frontal engagement at ranges approaching 1,000 metres. German crews, recognising they'd lost their immunity advantage, had attempted to withdraw rather than press attacks. The psychological shift was complete. Tigers, designed as breakthrough weapons, were now retreating from Shermans they could have engaged confidently just months earlier. German after-action reports from Arracourt reflected shock and confusion. Oberst Hans von Luttwitz, commanding the 47th Panzer Corps, wrote in his battle summary, "Our armor losses exceed all projections. American 76mm guns demonstrate unexpected lethality against our heaviest tanks. Tiger units report multiple vehicles destroyed by frontal hits at long range. Panther battalions similarly affected. American ammunition appears to utilize penetrators of exceptional hardness. Standard engagement doctrine requires immediate revision. The losses were catastrophic for German armoured strength. 5th Panzer Army committed approximately 86 Panthers and Tigers to Arracourt operations. By September 29th, when the offensive collapsed, German forces had lost over 60 of these vehicles. Not all fell to HVAP, artillery, tactical airstrikes when weather permitted, and mechanical breakdowns claimed their share. But American tank units credited HVAP with at least 20 heavy armor kills, an unprecedented ratio of long-range frontal penetrations. General Oberst Hermann Bulk, commanding Army Group G, recognized the strategic implications. American technological innovation has eliminated our qualitative edge in armored combat, he reported, to OKW headquarters in early October. We can no longer rely on armor superiority to compensate for numerical inferiority. Tiger and Panther units must adopt defensive tactics, using terrain and ambush rather than frontal engagement. This represents fundamental change in armored doctrine, necessitated by enemy ammunition advances. The admission was remarkable. Germany's most experienced armored commander acknowledged that American innovation had forced doctrinal revision. Tigers and Panthers, designed for aggressive maneuver warfare, were being relegated to defensive positions because they could no longer count on armor immunity. The psychological advantage had shifted decisively toward American forces. American intelligence organizations struggled to understand why HVAP proved so effective. Metallurgical analysis of captured German armor revealed that late-war production quality had deteriorated significantly. Steel alloys used in Tiger frontal plates manufactured after mid-1943 showed brittleness and inconsistent hardness. Allied strategic bombing had disrupted German steel production, forcing manufacturers to use substitute alloys with inferior ballistic properties. The armor that looked formidable was actually more vulnerable than pre-war German armor steel. Testing at Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland during late 1944 confirmed these findings. Captured Tiger armor plates failed catastrophically when struck by HVAP rounds. Instead of deflecting projectiles or creating partial penetrations, the plates developed complete breakthroughs, with massive spalling on the interior surfaces. American engineers concluded that German armor quality had declined so severely that even weapons previously considered marginal could now achieve full penetrations under favorable conditions. This revelation had profound implications. If Tiger armor was substandard, then German technological superiority was partially illusory. The Tigers that had terrorized Allied tank crews in Normandy were not invincible fortresses, but vehicles whose armor protection had been compromised by industrial degradation. HVAP ammunition worked not just because of superior American metallurgy, but because it struck armor that could no longer perform as designed. German technical intelligence reached similar conclusions. Waffenamt reports from November 1944 acknowledged that armor plate quality had declined drastically. Molybdenum shortages forced steel mills to reduce alloy content, creating plates that were either too soft or too brittle. Surface hardening processes had been simplified to accelerate production, leaving internal plate structures vulnerable to high-velocity impacts. The combination of improved American ammunition and degraded German armor created a gap in protection that negated Germany's historical advantages. The psychological dimensions extended beyond immediate tactical concerns. Tiger crews had developed immense confidence through years of combat superiority. From the Eastern Front, where Tigers dominated Soviet armor, to North Africa and Italy, where they slaughtered Allied tanks with impunity, German heavy tank units had cultivated an aura of invincibility. This confidence shaped tactical decision-making, encouraged aggressive positioning, and sustained morale, even as strategic situations deteriorated. HVAP ammunition shattered that psychological foundation. Unteroffizier Werner Koch, gunner in Heavy Tank Battalion 506, described the transformation in a letter intercepted by Allied censors in November 1944. "We used to advance toward enemy tanks, knowing our armor would protect us. The Americans feared facing Tigers. Now we fear them. Any Sherman with the long gun might carry the special ammunition. We cannot distinguish it until they fire. By then, it is often too late." Yesterday, Feldwebel Hartmann's Tiger was destroyed by a single shot that penetrated the glacis plate at perhaps 600 meters. We did not believe this was possible. Now we know it is not only possible but increasingly common. Koch's letter captured the erosion of German armored confidence. The certainty that had sustained Tiger crews through desperate battles was gone, replaced by vulnerability and caution. Tank commanders who once positioned aggressively now sought maximum cover. Engagement ranges that had favored German gunnery were shortened as crews tried to prevent American tanks from establishing clear fields of fire. The tactical initiative, so crucial in armored warfare, shifted toward American forces who now possessed weapons that could threaten German heavy armor at distances previously considered safe. The Battle of the Bulge in December 1944 provided the final test of HVAP effectiveness under winter combat conditions. German 6th Panzer Army committed substantial Tiger resources to the northern shoulder of the offensive, expecting their heavy armor to overwhelm American defenses through sheer firepower advantage. The initial assault on December 16th achieved significant tactical surprise, catching American units unprepared. But as the offensive developed and American armored reserves deployed, the pattern established at Arracourt repeated. American tank destroyers and 76mm Shermans, equipped with HVAP ammunition, engaged Tigers at ranges that shocked German commanders. Near the town of Krinkolt on December 17th, elements of the 2nd Infantry Division's attached tank battalion destroyed 4 Tigers from Schwere SS Panzerabteilung 501 in a single engagement. Staff Sergeant Early Worthington, commanding a Sherman from Company A of the 7th 41st Tank Battalion, described the action in his after-action report. At approximately 1400 hours, 4 Tigers advanced along the road from Hohen toward our positions. We held fire until the range closed to approximately 700 yards. I ordered HVAP loaded and aimed for the lead Tiger's glacis plate where it meets the hull. First shot penetrated cleanly. Tiger stopped immediately with flames visible from the engine compartment. Second Tiger attempted to pivot but threw a track. We hit it twice in the side armor. Third and fourth Tigers withdrew behind cover. We were displaced before they could return accurate fire. Worthington's account demonstrated that American crews had learned to maximize HVAP effectiveness. They waited for optimal ranges, targeted specific impact points where armor geometry favored penetration, and used fire and maneuver tactics to prevent German return fire. The combination of improved ammunition and refined tactics created lethality, far exceeding what German commanders anticipated. Obersturmführer Jochen Paper, commanding Kampfgruppe Paper during the Bulge offensive, recorded his frustration in radio communications intercepted by Allied signals intelligence. American anti-tank capabilities exceed all intelligence estimates, Piper reported on December 18th. Tiger units report frontal penetrations at ranges we considered immune. Our armor advantage has disappeared. Recommend immediate tactical reassessment of heavy tank employment. Piper's Kampfgruppe, spearheading the deepest German penetration during the offensive, included approximately 30 Tigers and King Tigers from Heavy SS Panzer Battalion 501. These vehicles represented Germany's most powerful armor, mounting 88mm guns capable of destroying any Allied tank at extreme ranges. Yet even these formidable weapons found themselves vulnerable to American 76mm fire when HVAP ammunition was available. The engagement near Stoumont on December 19th illustrated the transformation. American forces from the 3rd Armored Division's Task Force Lovelady established blocking positions across Kampfgruppe Piper's intended route of advance. 6. Shermans, 4 mounting 76mm guns, occupied hull-down positions covering the approaches. German reconnaissance reported the American presence, but Piper calculated that his Tigers could eliminate the blocking force quickly through superior firepower and armor protection. The attack commenced at dawn. 3 Tigers advanced in line abreast, presenting frontal armor to American positions, while supporting Panthers provided overwatch. At approximately 800 meters, American Shermans opened fire. The first HVAP round struck the center Tiger's glacis plate slightly left of the driver's vision port. The penetration created a fist-sized hole through 100 millimeters of armor, sending a jet of superheated metal through the crew compartment. The driver died instantly. The radio operator, seated to the driver's right, was killed by fragments. Hull ammunition detonated seconds later, blowing the turret completely off the chassis. The left Tiger attempted to pivot, seeking to present angled armor that might deflect subsequent shots. 2 HVAP rounds struck within seconds. The first hit the glacis at an oblique angle and ricocheted, leaving a deep gouge but no penetration. The second struck more squarely and punched through, disabling the vehicle and forcing the crew to abandon. The right Tiger achieved a firing position and destroyed 1 American Sherman with its first shot, but before it could reload, 3 HVAP rounds struck its frontal armor in rapid succession. The third penetration ignited fuel vapors in the engine compartment, and the Tiger burned. American after-action reports credited the engagement as a decisive tactical victory achieved through superior positioning and effective ammunition employment. German reports acknowledged a catastrophic loss ratio that violated all doctrinal expectations. 3 Tigers destroyed, 1 Sherman lost. The mathematics that had favored German armor for 3 years had been completely inverted. Find this story engaging. Please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Kampfgruppe Piper's subsequent operations demonstrated how HVAP's existence forced tactical paralysis on German commanders. Piper abandoned his original route, seeking alternate approaches where American anti-tank defenses might be weaker. This diverted his advance, consumed fuel, and wasted time that proved irreplaceable. By December 21st, with fuel exhausted and American forces converging, Piper ordered his remaining armor destroyed and retreated on foot. The most powerful German armored spearhead of the offensive had been blunted not primarily by overwhelming force, but by the knowledge that American weapons could now threaten German heavy armor under conditions previously considered safe. The intelligence failure that allowed HVAP to surprise German forces stemmed from multiple factors. American security around tungsten-based. Ammunition remained tight throughout 1944. Production quantities were classified. Distribution was carefully controlled. Spent projectiles were recovered when possible to prevent German technical intelligence from obtaining samples. This operational security meant German commanders encountered HVAP on the battlefield before their intelligence services could warn them of its capabilities. German metallurgical analysis, when captured rounds finally reached testing facilities, revealed the sophistication of American ammunition design. The M93 HVAP projectile used a tungsten carbide core jacketed in mild steel with an aluminum ballistic cap. This 3-layer construction optimized both penetration and flight characteristics. The tungsten core provided the density necessary for armor defeat. The steel jacket prevented core fragmentation during barrel transit. The aluminum cap improved aerodynamics, maintaining velocity at extended ranges. Waffenamt engineers acknowledged that the design represented a sophisticated understanding of armor penetration physics. Germany had developed similar ammunition using tungsten cores, but production remained limited due to tungsten shortages. The Panzer Granate 40 arrowhead armor-piercing round used similar principles, but quantities never approached American HVAP production levels. Once again, American industrial capacity had translated technological concepts into battlefield reality faster and more comprehensively than German industry could match. The strategic implications extended beyond individual tank engagements. Germany's armored doctrine for 1944 and 45, assumed that Tigers and Panthers would provide qualitative superiority, compensating for Allied numerical advantages. If German heavy armor could destroy 3 or 4 Allied tanks for each loss, the mathematics of attrition favored Germany, despite smaller production numbers. HVAP ammunition invalidated this calculation by reducing German kill ratios. When Tigers could be destroyed frontally at 700 to 800 meters, their advantage shrank dramatically. American production data illustrated the scale of HVAP deployment. Between August 1944 and May 1945, American industry produced approximately 400,000 76mm HVAP rounds. This represented roughly 10% of total 76mm ammunition production, a substantial allocation given tungsten's strategic importance. Distribution prioritized armored divisions and tank destroyer battalions facing concentrated German armor. By early 1945, most American units in Europe carried HVAP as standard combat load. The contrast with German tungsten ammunition production was stark. Germany produced fewer than 100,000 tungsten-cored projectiles across all calibers during the same period. Tungsten supplies had been constrained since 1943, when access to Portuguese and Spanish sources became unreliable. German industry prioritized tungsten for machine tools and cutting implements, considering them more critical to war production than specialized ammunition. This strategic choice reflected resource scarcity, but crippled German ability to match American ammunition innovations. The tactical adaptations German tank units developed during winter 1944-45 revealed the desperation caused by HVAP's introduction. Tiger units received modified engagement procedures emphasizing extreme caution. Commanders were instructed to engage only from maximum range, minimize exposure time, and withdraw immediately if American 76mm guns returned fire. These procedures contradicted aggressive German armored doctrine, but represented the only practical response to changed battlefield conditions. Oberst Otto Skorzeny, commanding Panzer formations during Operation Nordwind in Alsace during January 1945, issued tactical guidance that acknowledged the transformation. American 76mm guns must be treated as serious threats to all German armor, Skorzeny's operations order stated. Tiger and Panther units will not advance without infantry reconnaissance confirming absence of anti-tank weapons. Engagement ranges will be maximized. Vehicles will not remain stationary in exposed positions. The era of German armor invincibility has ended. We must fight with skill and cunning rather than assumed superiority. Skorzeny's candid assessment reflected broader recognition within German armored forces. The psychological advantage that had sustained Tiger crews through desperate battles was irretrievably lost. Crews who once attacked confidently now advanced cautiously, scanning constantly for threats they'd previously ignored. The mental stress of knowing that any engagement might result in frontal penetration eroded combat effectiveness in ways beyond simple tactical considerations. American tank crews experienced the opposite psychological transformation. Gunners who'd been trained to fear Tigers, to avoid frontal engagements, to seek flanking positions at all costs, now understood they possessed weapons capable of defeating German heavy armor directly. This knowledge fostered aggressive tactics. Sherman commanders positioned their tanks to exploit HVAP's capabilities, accepting risks they'd previously avoided. Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, commanding the 37th Tank Battalion of 4th Armored Division, articulated this shift in a letter written in February 1945. "Our boys don't fear German armor anymore," Abrams wrote. "They know they can hurt Tigers and Panthers if they get decent shots." HVAP gives them confidence. They maneuver aggressively, take calculated risks, press attacks when before they might have hesitated. The ammunition alone didn't change the war, but it changed how our tankers think about fighting. The statistical evidence supported Abrams' assessment. Fourth, Armored Division's combat records showed increased willingness to engage German heavy armor during the first quarter of 1945 compared to previous periods. Tank commanders reported HVAP usage rates averaging 3 to 4 rounds per engagement with German heavy armor, indicating confidence in the ammunition's effectiveness. Kill-to-loss ratios improved measurably. Where American tank units had suffered 3-to-1 or worse loss rates against Tigers in Normandy, by early 1945, those ratios had reversed in many engagements. German prisoner interrogations revealed the psychological impact from the receiving end. Hauptsturmführer Ernst Bachmann, Tiger commander with 2nd SS Panzer Division, was captured near the Rhine in March 1945. His interrogation transcript documented transformed perceptions. "We knew before that American Shermans were numerous," Bachmann told Allied intelligence officers. "We accepted that they would eventually overwhelm us through quantity. But we believed our qualitative superiority, especially in armor protection, would allow us to exact heavy costs. The American tungsten ammunition eliminated that advantage. We could no longer fight confidently. Every engagement became dangerous. The psychological weight of knowing you are vulnerable when you should be protected is crushing." Bachmann's testimony captured the erosion of German armoured morale during the war's final months. Tank crews who'd sustained combat effectiveness through faith in their equipment's superiority found that faith shattered by HVAP penetrations. The realization that American industry could not only match German technology, but deploy it more broadly and effectively, contributed to broader recognition of Germany's inevitable defeat. The technical lessons learned from HVAP employment influenced post-war armor and ammunition development worldwide. American designers recognized that projectile density mattered more than diameter for armor penetration. The success of 76mm HVAP, which outperformed 90mm conventional ammunition despite smaller caliber, validated sub-caliber penetrator concepts that would dominate tank ammunition design for decades. The British examined captured HVAP rounds extensively, incorporating lessons into their own ammunition development programs. The 17-pounder armor-piercing discarding sabot round, entering service in late 1944, used similar principles: tungsten carbide core for maximum density, discarding sabot to maintain high velocity, small diameter penetrator concentrating impact energy. British testing confirmed that subcaliber designs offered superior performance against sloped armor compared to conventional full-caliber projectiles. Soviet designers, though not employing tungsten ammunition extensively during the war due to material shortages, studied captured HVAP examples and incorporated principles into post-war development. The USSR's BR-365P armor-piercing composite rigid projectile for the 85mm gun used a hardened steel core in a mild steel body, applying lessons learned from examining American HVAP design philosophy. German engineers, ironically, had pioneered sub-caliber ammunition concepts but never deployed them as effectively as the Allies. The Panzer Granit 40 used tungsten cores and demonstrated excellent penetration performance in testing, but production remained minimal due to tungsten shortages and manufacturing complexity. Germany's technological sophistication produced brilliant designs that industrial reality couldn't sustain in meaningful quantities. The contrast between German innovation and American implementation became a recurring theme in post-war analysis. Germany excelled at developing advanced weapons concepts, but struggled to translate them into battlefield reality at scale. America prioritized practical solutions that could be manufactured quickly and deployed broadly. HVAP exemplified this dichotomy. The ammunition wasn't revolutionary in concept. Germany had developed similar projectiles years earlier, but American industrial capacity delivered it to frontline units in quantities that altered tactical mathematics. The final accounting of HVAP's impact revealed its strategic significance beyond individual engagements. American forces in Europe fired approximately 150,000 HVAP rounds between August 1944 and May 1945. Not every round achieved a kill. Many missed. Some struck at angles preventing penetration. Others hit less critical armor areas. But intelligence estimates credited HVAP with at least 800 confirmed heavy armor kills. Tigers, Panthers, and King Tigers destroyed by frontal or heavily armored hits that conventional ammunition could not have achieved. This represented approximately 15% of total German heavy armor losses on the Western Front during that period. Artillery, tactical air power, mechanical breakdowns, and flanking shots from conventional ammunition accounted for the majority of German armor casualties. But HVAP's psychological impact far exceeded its statistical contribution. The knowledge that frontal armor could be defeated transformed German tactical decision-making, forced defensive postures, and eroded the confidence that had sustained German armored forces through years of combat. The ammunition's limited availability, while frustrating to American tank crews who wanted unlimited supplies, actually enhanced its psychological impact on German forces. Because not every Sherman carried HVAP, and those that did possessed limited quantities, German commanders couldn't predict when they'd encounter it. Any 76mm Sherman might carry the deadly ammunition. This uncertainty paralyzed decision-making in ways that universal HVAP availability might not have achieved. German tankers couldn't take calculated risks based on knowing their opponent's capabilities. They had to assume worst-case scenarios in every engagement. The comparison with other armor-defeating technologies developed during the war highlighted HVAP's unique characteristics. The British 17-pounder gun, firing armor-piercing, discarding sabot ammunition, achieved superior penetration performance but required larger, less mobile vehicles. American 90mm guns on tank destroyers and heavy tanks delivered excellent results but couldn't be mounted on standard Shermans. Rocket launchers, like the bazooka, provided infantry with armor-defeating capability but required close ranges. HVAP occupied a unique niche, significant improvement in penetration using existing gun systems that could be mounted on standard medium tanks. This practicality ensured broad deployment. By March 1945, the majority of American armored divisions had at least some HVAP allocation. Tank destroyer battalions received priority distribution. Even separate tank battalions supporting infantry divisions obtained limited supplies for engagements with German heavy armor. The ammunition wasn't universally available, but it reached enough units to create the psychological uncertainty that undermined German tactical confidence. The legacy of 76mm HVAP extended beyond World War II into the Cold War era. The principle that sub-caliber, high-density penetrators outperformed conventional full-caliber projectiles became foundational to armor-piercing ammunition design. American development of armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot rounds for the M48, M60, and eventually M1 Abrams traced direct lineage to HVAP concepts. Soviet long-rod penetrators for their smoothbore tank guns similarly reflected lessons learned from examining captured HVAP examples. The psychological dimensions of HVAP's employment influenced military training and doctrine, a development for decades. Military psychologists studying World War II tank combat recognized that crew confidence correlated strongly with perceived equipment superiority. Tiger crews had fought aggressively because they believed their armor made them invincible. When HVAP demonstrated that belief was false, combat effectiveness degraded dramatically. Even though objective armor protection hadn't changed, only American ammunition had improved. This insight shaped post-war training emphasis on combined arms operations, realistic threat assessment, and tactical flexibility, rather than equipment superiority. American armored doctrine developed during the 1950s and 60s emphasized that no single weapon system provided absolute advantage. Success depended on combined employment of multiple capabilities, realistic understanding of both friendly and enemy strengths, and psychological preparation for encountering unexpected threats. The shock that German Tiger crews experienced when encountering HVAP became a cautionary example taught to generations of tank commanders. The economic dimension of HVAP production revealed another advantage of American industrial capacity. Each M93 HVAP round cost approximately $12 to produce in 1944, roughly double the cost of conventional armor-piercing ammunition, but a trivial expense compared to the cost of the tanks it could destroy. A Tiger cost approximately $300,000 to manufacture. Trading $12 ammunition for $300,000 tanks represented extraordinarily favorable economic exchange. American industry could afford to produce hundreds of thousands of HVAP rounds. Germany could not afford to lose hundreds of Tigers. This economic asymmetry, multiplied across all weapon systems and industrial production, explained Germany's inevitable defeat more clearly than any single battle. American industry translated raw materials and manufacturing capacity into weapons at scales Germany couldn't match. When American innovation produced superior ammunition designs, industrial capacity ensured deployment in quantities that altered battlefield mathematics. Germany might match American technology, but it couldn't match American production. The final German assessment of HVAP came from General Heinz Guderian, Inspector General of Armored Forces, in a report written in April 1945 as Germany collapsed. American tungsten ammunition represents one of many technological surprises that have undermined our armored effectiveness, Guderian wrote. We knew the Americans possessed industrial capacity. We underestimated their innovative ability and willingness to deploy advanced technologies rapidly. The result has been systematic erosion of advantages we assumed would sustain our armored forces. No single weapon decided this war. But American ammunition innovations, combined with overwhelming material superiority, made our defeat inevitable. Guderian's assessment acknowledged what many German commanders had concluded privately. The war wasn't lost in any single engagement or because of any particular weapon. It was lost because American and Allied industrial capacity, combined with technological innovation and tactical adaptability, created cumulative advantages that Germany couldn't overcome. HVAP ammunition exemplified this broader pattern. Identify problems, develop solutions, deploy at scale, achieve tactical effect, erode enemy confidence. For German Tiger crews who'd entered the war confident in their invincibility, HVAP's introduction marked the end of that confidence and the beginning of realistic assessment of their desperate situation. The ammunition that they never expected to exist, that violated their understanding of Allied capabilities, that shouldn't have been able to defeat their frontal armor at 800 yards, had done exactly that. The psychological shock of that revelation, multiplied across hundreds of engagements and thousands of tank crew members, contributed to the broader realization that Germany had lost not just tactical advantages, but the fundamental industrial and innovative competition that would determine the war's outcome. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.